What supplements will correct estrogen dominance?
What supplements are good for estrogen dominance? I assume actually that the question relates to menopause and or postmenopause. Um, as you know, and I'm going to take a few minutes to explain why, my view is the best way to balance out female hormones, estrogens, including progesterone, is functionally by increasing the immune tolerance, that is following the LRA by ELISA Act tests and plan, and then in addition, testing in the saliva. Saliva or plasma are specimens that have been standardized for tests of estrogen, tests of precursors to estrogen, and in complex cases, in difficult cases, what I prefer to do is start with a saliva test where you look at both stress hormones like DHEA and cortisol at 4 times, and you also look at the same time at male and female hormones, estrogens and testosterones, and their precursors, the mother and father molecules to these end product hormones. In some cases, you actually want to do a 24-hour urine and look at both the precursors and the metabolites, because sometimes when people say estrogen dominant, what they mean is progesterone deficient. So you can be estrogen dominant because you have too much estrogen and a healthy amount of progesterone, or you could have too much progesterone and too little, you could have too little progesterone and an average or normal amount of estrogen, and you'd still be estrogen dominant. So I think estrogen dominant is a clinical term of art. I don't think it is specific enough for us to give a simple answer. But fortunately, when you start with healthy digestion, microbiome, and metabolome based on the LRA tests and plan, during that 6 months is an excellent time to check saliva for stress hormones at 4 different time points, and ask the lab if they can do the full complement of estrogens, and by that I mean estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Now, the first two are more familiar, and they're present in larger amounts, estrone and estradiol. But then there's estriol, what many endocrinologists call the healthier estrogen, as opposed to the less healthy estrogen. So women who have higher estriol and lower estradiol and estrone are healthier, feel and function better emotionally and physically, and are never estrogen dominant. So in addition to the opportunity to measure in the saliva, some labs can add the third, what I call healthy estrogen, and you then want to look at what they call the ratio of E2 plus E1 over E3. So estrone, estradiol divided by estriol gives you a ratio, and you want the denominator, the estriol, to be higher. You want the estrone and estradiol to be lower. And when you see a high estrone or estradiol, I don't just think of estrogen dominance, I think of what's called pregnenolone steal. So there are times under stress where bodies shift so that the source molecule, the parental molecule, is stolen away and becomes more unhealthy estrogen at the expense of testosterone. It turns out both men and women need both estrogen and testosterone, but in healthy balance throughout the different seasons of life. And I'll add as a footnote that aside from the issue of estrogen dominance, there is in menopausal and postmenopausal women very often an issue of dryness in the vaginal canal, whereas it should be a, quote, juicy organ, which means self-lubricating. And the use in those women of specially compounded estriol cream is often extremely helpful to renew the vaginal tissue and to rehabilitate the normal cycling on emotional stimulation. So that may be a little bit more than you were particularly interested in, but the issue of estrogen dominance, I think, is misunderstood enough that it really helps to get to the right tests and then speak with one of our health coaches if you want about how to interpret those results, because there'll be many results that come back if you do the full saliva testing or the full 24-hour urine testing that we recommend.